The gentle hum of the submersible's engines filled Zara's ears as she gazed out into the inky blackness of the subterranean sea. Bioluminescent creatures drifted past the reinforced viewport, their ethereal glow casting dancing shadows across her face. She had dreamed of this moment for years, ever since whispers of a vast underground ocean teeming with prehistoric life first reached the scientific community. Now, as lead marine biologist on this groundbreaking expedition, Zara found herself at the threshold of a world untouched by surface dwellers for millennia. The weight of discovery pressed upon her shoulders, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins. "Zara, you're going to want to see this." Maris's voice crackled through the intercom, pulling her from her reverie. Maris, the team's geologist, had been monitoring the seafloor topography as they descended deeper into the cavernous expanse. Zara made her way to the control room, where holographic displays flickered with data streams and sonar readouts. Maris pointed to a particular section of the map, her eyes wide with wonder. "Look at these formations. They're unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's as if the entire seafloor is pulsating." Zara leaned in, her brow furrowing as she studied the anomalous readings. The seafloor seemed to undulate in patterns too regular to be natural currents or tectonic activity. Before she could voice her thoughts, a shudder ran through the submersible, causing the lights to flicker momentarily. Nixie, their pilot, swiveled in her chair, her hands dancing over the controls. "We're being pulled off course," she announced, a hint of concern in her voice. "There's some kind of current, but it's not showing up on our instruments." As if in response to Nixie's words, a school of bioluminescent fish surged past the viewports, their synchronized movements forming intricate patterns that seemed almost intentional. Zara pressed her hand against the cool glass, a sense of awe washing over her. The creature's light pulsed in rhythm with the strange undulations they had detected in the seafloor. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her scientific mind racing to catalogue and analyze every detail of this extraordinary phenomenon. Suddenly, the submersible's external lights flickered to life, illuminating the vast expanse before them. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she beheld a sight beyond her wildest imagination. Stretching out as far as the eye could see was an underwater landscape that defied explanation. Massive translucent structures that appeared to be part coral, part crystal, rose from the seafloor, their surfaces rippling with bioluminescent patterns. Schools of prehistoric creatures, some resembling long-extinct species, others completely alien, swam through and around these living towers. As Zara watched, mouth agape, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just observing this underwater world. They were being observed in return. As the submersible continued its descent, guided by an unseen force, the team's initial wonder began to mingle with a growing sense of unease. Zara's scientific curiosity battled with her instinct for caution as she observed the increasingly bizarre behavior of the marine life around them. Schools of ancient-looking fish moved in perfect unison, forming complex geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with an intelligence far beyond mere instinct. Massive, undulating creatures that defied classification glided past their viewports, their bodies adorned with intricate bioluminescent markings that shifted and changed like living circuitry. "Zara, look at this!" Nixie called out, her voice tight with concern. She gestured to the submersible's navigation systems, which were displaying conflicting data. According to their instruments, they were simultaneously moving in multiple directions, an impossibility that sent a chill down Zara's spine. "It's as if the water itself is alive," Nixie murmured, her hands hovering uncertainly over the controls. Zara placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, even as her own mind raced to make sense of the anomalous readings. Maris, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly let out a gasp. "The structures," she said, pointing out the viewport. "They're changing." The towering formations they had observed earlier were indeed transforming before their eyes. What had appeared to be static crystal-like growths were now shifting and flowing like liquid glass. Tendrils of bioluminescent energy coursed through these living architectures, forming patterns that mirrored the movements of the sea life around them. It was a mesmerizing display of synchronicity that defied all known laws of biology and physics. As they watched in awe, a massive shape emerged from the depths below. At first, Zara thought it was another strange sea creature, but as it drew closer, her eyes widened in disbelief. It was a city, an entire underwater metropolis that seemed to be constructed from the same living, crystalline material as the towers. Spires and domes pulsed with internal light, while organic-looking structures that could have been buildings or colossal organisms swayed gently in the currents. "It's incredible," Zara breathed, her scientific mind struggling to process the impossible sight before her. Suddenly, their submersible shuddered violently, caught in an invisible current that pulled them inexorably towards the heart of the subaquatic city. Alarms blared as Nixie fought for control, but their vessel moved as if guided by an unseen hand. As they approached one of the massive structures, its surface rippled and parted, revealing a cavernous opening. "Brace for impact!" Nixie shouted. But instead of a collision, they felt a gentle deceleration as they were drawn into the structure. The team exchanged nervous glances as they realized the truth of their situation. They weren't exploring this world. They were being deliberately brought into it. As the opening sealed behind them, cutting off their connection to the outside world, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover secrets far beyond their comprehension. The submersible glided through the cavernous interior of the living structure, surrounded by a soft, pulsating glow that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Zara, Maris, and Nixie watched in stunned silence as they were guided through a series of organic chambers, each more fantastical than the last. Suddenly, they emerged into a vast central atrium, a space so immense that it defied the laws of physics. Suspended in the water around them were countless artifacts and relics, each encased in a shimmering bubble of energy. Zara's eyes widened as she recognized objects from various periods of Earth's history, alongside items of clearly alien origin. "It's a museum," Maris whispered in awe, her voice barely audible over the hum of their vessel. But Zara shook her head, her mind racing as she pieced together the implications of what they were seeing. "No," she replied, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "It's more than that. It's a record, a living memory." As if in response to her words, the artifacts began to move, swirling around their submersible in a dizzying dance of history and mystery. Images flickered across the surfaces of the energy bubbles, showing glimpses of past events, some familiar, others utterly alien. Nixie struggled to maintain control of the submersible as unseen currents buffeted them from all sides. "Something's happening," she called out, her hands flying over the controls. The very water around them seemed to be coming alive, coalescing into shapes and forms that defied description. Tendrils of bioluminescent energy reached out towards their vessel, probing and curious. Zara felt a sudden pressure in her mind, as if something vast and ancient was attempting to make contact. She gasped, clutching her head as a flood of images and sensations overwhelmed her senses. In that moment of connection, Zara understood the truth that had been hidden beneath the waves for eons. The sea itself was alive, a vast, sentient entity that had watched over the Earth since its earliest days. It had recorded every moment of the planet's history, every rise and fall of civilization, every evolution and extinction. And now it had chosen to reveal itself to them. The realization was both terrifying and exhilarating. As the psychic link strengthened, Zara felt the weight of millennia pressing down upon her consciousness. She saw the birth of stars, the formation of planets, the emergence of life in all its myriad forms. Just as Zara thought her mind would shatter under the onslaught of information, the connection abruptly ceased. The swirling artifacts settled back into their places, and the living water retreated. In the sudden silence that followed, Zara turned to her companions, her eyes wide with the knowledge she had gained. "We've been chosen," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "The sea, it wants us to be its emissaries." As Maris and Nixie looked at her in confusion and concern, the submersible began to move once more, guided by the sentient ocean towards what Zara now understood was the true heart of this underwater realm. A place where the very essence of the living sea awaited them, ready to reveal secrets that would change their understanding of life, Earth, and their place in the cosmos forever. As the submersible continued its journey through the living sea, Zara struggled to process the immense knowledge that had been imparted to her. Her mind reeled with visions of Earth's past and potential futures, intertwined with glimpses of cosmic events beyond human comprehension. Maris and Nixie watched her with a mixture of concern and awe, sensing the profound change in their colleague, but unable to fully grasp what she had experienced. The waters around them had calmed, but there was a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the entire ocean was holding its breath. "We're approaching something," Nixie announced, her voice hushed with reverence. Ahead of them, the water began to glow with an intensity that surpassed anything they had seen before. As they drew closer, they saw that the light emanated from a colossal structure that defied description, part organic, part energy. It pulsed with the very essence of the living sea. Zara felt a resonance within her, a call that seemed to echo through her very being. "This is it," she murmured, "the heart of the Sapient Sea." As they neared the structure, tendrils of luminescent energy reached out, gently enveloping their submersible. Instead of fear, Zara felt a profound sense of welcome and purpose. She turned to her companions, her eyes shimmering with an otherworldly light. "We have to go out there," she said, her voice filled with certainty. Maris and Nixie exchanged worried glances, but the conviction in Zara's voice was undeniable. With trembling hands, they began to don their advanced diving suits, specially designed for the extreme pressures of the subterranean ocean. The moment they stepped out of the airlock, Zara felt the full presence of the sentient sea envelop her. It was as if every drop of water was alive, conscious, and in perfect harmony with the whole. She saw Maris and Nixie gasp within their helmets, overwhelmed by the sensation. Guided by an unseen force, they swam towards the pulsating heart of the ocean. As they drew closer, Zara began to understand the true purpose of their journey. The sea had not just been waiting to be discovered, it had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself, to find worthy ambassadors who could bridge the gap between its ancient consciousness and the world above. As they reached the threshold of the energy structure, Zara felt a moment of hesitation. She knew that crossing this boundary would irrevocably change them and the course of human history. She looked at her companions, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes. With a shared nod of understanding, they stepped forward together into the pulsating light. In that moment, Zara felt the full weight of the responsibility they were assuming. They were no longer just explorers or scientists. They were becoming the conduits through which two worlds would finally meet. As the energy of the Sapient Sea flowed through them, Zara's last conscious thought was a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation for the monumental task that lay ahead. In the days that followed their transformation at the heart of the Sapient Sea, Zara, Maris, and Nixie found themselves forever changed. They had become living conduits, their minds now inextricably linked to the vast consciousness of the subterranean ocean. As they made their way back to the surface world, each of them grappled with the enormity of what they had experienced and the responsibility they now bore. The submersible, guided by the gentle currents of the sentient sea, rose through the complex network of caverns and tunnels, carrying with it a secret that would reshape humanity's understanding of their world. Upon their emergence, the trio was met with a mixture of relief, curiosity, and skepticism from their fellow scientists and the awaiting media. How could they possibly explain what they had discovered? As Zara stood before a panel of esteemed colleagues, she took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the ocean even here, hundreds of miles from the subterranean sea. She began to speak, her words carrying a weight and certainty that silenced the room. "The Earth is alive," she declared, "in ways we never imagined. The ocean beneath our feet is not just a body of water, but a sentient being that has watched over our planet since its inception." In the weeks that followed, the world struggled to come to terms with the revelation. Some embraced the idea with wonder and reverence, while others dismissed it as the ravings of scientists who had spent too long in the depths. But as Zara, Maris, and Nixie continued to demonstrate abilities and knowledge that defied explanation, even the most hardened skeptics began to take notice. They could predict seismic activities with uncanny accuracy, communicate with marine life in ways never before possible, and provide insights into Earth's history that revolutionized multiple scientific fields. As humanity grappled with this paradigm shift, the trio worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between the surface world and the Sapient Sea. They established a new field of study, one that combined oceanography, geology, and a form of psychic archaeology that allowed them to access the living memories of the ocean. Governments and organizations around the world sought their counsel, recognizing the potential impact of this discovery on everything from climate change to resource management. The Sentient Sea, through its chosen ambassadors, began to share its vast knowledge, offering solutions to problems that had long plagued humanity. Yet, as Zara stood on the bow of a research vessel, gazing out over the seemingly ordinary waves of the surface ocean, she knew that their journey was far from over. The Sapient Sea had revealed itself for a reason, and that reason was becoming clearer with each passing day. Humanity stood on the brink of a great challenge, one that threatened not just their own existence, but the delicate balance of life on Earth. The ocean, in its infinite wisdom, had chosen this moment to reach out, to offer its guidance and protection. As Zara felt the familiar pulse of the Sentient Sea resonating through her being, she understood the truth that would soon dawn on all of humanity. They were not the masters of their world, but part of a greater living whole. The subterranean sea, alive and aware, had always been there, silently guiding the course of life on Earth. And now, as the planet faced unprecedented threats, it had decided to take a more active role in shaping the future of all its inhabitants.